All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, from realtors, lenders, builders, developers, residential or commercial, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else and what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Our very special guest and featured titan today, Barry Overton. Barry, thanks so much for taking the time, my friend. I'm super excited to share your story.
Likewise, it's exciting to be here. And before we get started, I just want to say thank you for interviewing me and on behalf of all the other Titans. I think this is a huge service that you provide for realtors around the country, which is very cool. So I'm really honored to be episode 118 of Real Estate Titans.
Well, Barry, thank you so much for saying that. I appreciate that. It's an honor to have you on the show amongst the other Titans, and hopefully everybody else is appreciating this content as well. That's always a great thing, but thanks for saying that. So I just want to dive into the series of questions. Everybody out there to get to know you as a man, as a professional, a little bit better. I guess let's just start with telling everybody a little bit about yourself.
So, kind of going backwards, really I spent 26 years in law enforcement, kind of made a decision very early on. At the age of 17, I made a decision to go into law enforcement. I had an uncle who was really truly my role model. That was a police officer. He was actually the first black sergeant, lieutenant, and captain of the Austin Police Department. So someone definitely to look up to in our family. And so I went into law enforcement. Actually at 18, I went into the military as a military police officer. I spent 3 years in the military, actually a Gulf War veteran. Spent 6 months over during Operation Desert Storm over in Iraq and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Came back, I was on with a small department in Alabama for a couple of years, and then I came to Denver, where I was a Denver police officer for 21 years, and spent 17 years of that working narcotics. So,
okay.
I can tell you when they pinned the badge on me, they said, "This is your ticket to the greatest show on earth," and they weren't joking.
Wow.
Yeah, some amazing stuff. That I saw some pretty sad, tragic things, but it was a time in my life that I would never take back. The experiences have prepared me for everything that I'm doing currently, and I'm sure for the things in the future as well. Also, I have 2 kids. I have a daughter, Noelle, that's 22, and Jackson, that's 16. They're really my pride and joy. My daughter actually wrote her first book at the wrote and self-published her first book at 11.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And she's written 3 books and had them all published. My son's at Regis High School, is doing great. He's on the honor roll and getting him prepared for college. So I'm a proud dad.
Yeah, no, as you should be. This is great. This is great.
And got into real estate about 18 years ago. So there was some overlap between law enforcement and real estate. And finally, I actually found a very good balance between the two that has, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but has helped me to produce a program within my business that benefits heroes.
And I love that because again, it's a passion. It's something about your past that you continually live through with real estate. Now, before we dive too deep into real estate for everybody out there, I do want to go back in law enforcement. And is there a story that you might share with the audience, that sticks out to you, or something that you remember that you're comfortable sharing with everybody?
And police are always asked that question, and a lot of times you can see them thinking, and it's just because there's so many stories, but right. I'll try and keep it PG-13.
All right, here we go.
But when I was 2 years on the job here with Denver PD, I actually had an incident, again, one of those greatest show on earth incidents where me and my partner, we're patrolling. There's actually a viaduct that used to be over here that's actually torn down now. We're driving across it, and out of the corner of both of our eyes, we see a girl on the sidewalk area of the viaduct, And then we look closer and we realize she's not actually on the sidewalk. She's on the other side of the rail. And on the other side of the rail basically is I-25 traffic going. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning. And and it was, so, we both are like, okay, we got to do something and we got to do it fast. So we stopped the vehicle. My partner, who was on the passenger side, engaged her with conversation. She never saw me. I was on the driver's side of the vehicle. So I was actually, while he was talking to her, I was actually able to walk up behind her, grab her and pull her back over the rail. She's screaming because she has no idea what's happening right now.
Right.
I'm screaming, not really, but
Sure.
I felt like I should have been. But, it was just one of those moments where, number one, if we hadn't have been there, if we hadn't have made a turn onto that street, we wouldn't have been there, and there's no telling what would have happened.
Wow.
And that was really a defining moment of why I did that job, because again, protecting and serving were a big part of what I did in the military. It was what fulfilled me as a police officer. And again, it's one of those stories. It's probably 25 years ago that happened, but it's just as vivid as it was yesterday. And again, it's just that part of me that I'll never would want to change that. Never want to go back and do something else. So it was really just a part of the job that gave me that sense of fulfillment. Another quick story, but 17 years that I spent in narcotics, and I can tell you I saw so many different things there. That was when I really learned that, when we say win the war on drugs, it's a huge epidemic. And I worked from street level narcotics, where I worked undercover, to the major peddlers unit and interdiction, where we were taking off large amounts, truckloads of cocaine and marijuana off the streets. And the interdiction unit, we were in charge of basically any narcotics coming into the city. So I worked at DIA, and this is before 9/11, so the security was not, TSA didn't exist at that time, and security was not at the level that it is now.
Okay.
And we actually looked for narcotics traffickers. Well, we would get narcotics, or we would get large sums of money that were the proceeds of narcotics. And we actually got, I think this kid was about 19 years old, coming out of Seattle, Washington. This again was before marijuana was legal here, but there was a marijuana out of Canada. It's British Columbia, and it's called BC Bud. It was probably about 5 times the cost of regular marijuana, but it was highly potent.
Wow.
Well, this kid, when we contacted him, he fit the travel profile, because he was traveling on a one-way ticket. He was coming from one of the source cities, Seattle, for BC Bud, and he booked his trip like the day before.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, little inside information here.
Yeah, giving up the goods here.
Right. That's right.
But with that, so we contacted him. We had a conversation. He had this travel bag, and we had drug sniffing dogs. The dogs hit on the bag. Now, because the dogs hit on the bag, we had enough to hold the bag, but we didn't have enough to hold him. So he opted to leave the bag behind, got on the plane to Seattle. So we ended up getting a warrant for the bag. By the time we got the warrant and opened the bag, there was $65,000 cash that we found in the bag. Well, he was still in flight. So there's a narcotics unit like ours at the Seattle airport.
Okay.
And they were able to contact him on that end. He had another $85,000 strapped to his body.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So like I said,
crazy.
before the TSA, you couldn't do that now.
Right.
But back before 2001, it happened quite a bit. So yeah, it was definitely a great time. The movie Traffic is one of those movies. The show The Wire.
Okay.
If you want to know what I did, you watch those two shows. It really kind of lays out exactly what my job was.
Wow. I mean, there's, and I'm sure there's an endless amount of stories, and we could just have a whole episode just on that. And, thanks for sharing that, because I think it gives everybody a little taste into, what you've done for such a long time in transition. Now, I do want to switch gears into going into real estate now, right? So what was it from protecting and serving to real estate, and essentially, protecting and serving clients? Like, what was it for you? Why real estate?
So, it was really, I think, it was kind of opportunity, number one, and timing. My wife at the time, she got her license in 1999. I got mine in 2001, but during that 1999 to 2001 period, in Denver, back then, there was a city charter that all city employees had to live in the city and county of Denver. Well, I think it was 2000 that was lifted, and there was a mass exodus of cops and sheriffs and firemen that were leaving and going to the suburb. Well, because of that, she had a ton of business that I was referring to her that helped her, grow her business. So much to the point where, I said, you know what, it makes sense for me just to get my license as well, and we can do this together. So in 2001, I got my license, and I can tell you from 2001 really to about 2017 or so, I didn't really advertise. I didn't have to. There were a lot of police officers that knew I had my license, and I was able to just word of mouth. I did a lot of business just with police and sheriffs, and I can tell you, I mean, it was kind of a new thing to figure out how to market outside of that arena, because there were just so many police officers that I worked with, during that time.
Sure, and to me, I think that when you're breaking it down in a career shift or anything along those lines, there's second thoughts, or people are wondering how's this going to work. It's a different transition. But for me, as a consumer base, looking at you and your past, protecting and serving, all of us, which it's so sad that a lot of us take that for granted. There's an immediate integrity. There's an immediate trust factor that's a part of that. So for me, going into it as a transaction standpoint, as a buyer or seller, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there should be an immediate trust. It's saying, hey, Barry really does it right. He's got my back. And then when I base that off of some of the stories that you were telling, I know that real estate is stressful. Anybody out there who's watching or listening to this, who's in the real estate world, understands that stress and pressure, but nothing to the extent that I'm assuming that you've dealt with over all those years, protecting and serving, and the police force. And if you look at it that way, handling that level of do or die stress and then transferring that over to real estate. I mean, to me, Barry's got to be doing this with his eyes closed, his hands tied behind his back. I mean, that's just beautiful as far as I'm concerned. So
you're absolutely right. I mean, that's when you have a deal that kind of goes south, or there's a termination, or you have to put something back on the market, it can be stressful. And a lot of people do ask me, man, how do you deal with that? And I said, well, the thing about it is nobody got shot at the end of this, transaction. If it goes south, it's, we live to put it back on the market or what have you.
Sure.
So it's definitely, there is the stress of real estate, but I've dealt with a lot worse.
Okay, you heard it here, everybody, and I think that's a beautiful background, Barry, into just who you are and what you've been doing and what brought you into real estate. I want to dive a little bit deeper into real estate as well here in a moment. I think with this question, it's going to be very helpful for everybody out there. Is what's your why, Barry? I mean, what really drives you and motivates you to do what you do to the level you do it at?
It was probably really revealed to me in 2013. I lost a family member, my brother. And it was through kind of reflection of his life, and then also thinking about my own life, that I really started thinking about, what is my why? What is my purpose? We're all here for a reason, and am I truly living in that purpose? And for a very long time, I felt like my why was two things. I thought it was just to protect and be a protector, because that is just a natural thing for me to do, and serving the community and serving my country. And then I also thought, because my kids are, again, my daughter is very talented, I really thought maybe my purpose was just to get her here and rear her and raise her so that she's going to do something amazing in this world. But then it was about 2013 with the loss of my brother. I said, no, I serve a bigger purpose here. And I realized that there was this passion to just do service to others. And I've done that from a civil standpoint, but then I realized, there's information, there's, whether it's in the real estate area, that I've been able to help people that didn't ever imagine that they could own a home and get them to the closing table. And there's no better feeling than when you hand the keys to someone and they have tears in their eyes for owning a home for the first time. And there's just a true sense of fulfillment that you have. So one thing that I learned, whatever it is that I'm doing, it has to serve others and it has to lift other people. So all the projects that I'm taking on right now, they literally have to go through a criteria of making sure that they fit with what my purpose is, and that's just to serve others.
Wow. And to me, and hopefully everybody's picking this up and feeling this energy, but Barry, when you're talking about, obviously, impact, protect, and serve, talking about your family, talking about, really providing the best product and service to the buyer, to the seller, above and beyond giving. It's above us, it's above you, right? And that's the greatest why as far as I'm concerned. And I think further in translation of what you've done in the past and for all these years in real estate, it speaks volumes about your reputation in the community being impeccable, your clients that love you and respect you, they become friends, it's an extended family. All of that is laid foundation. And there's so much more that you're out here to do, my friend, and I know, and anybody who knows you and respects you agrees with that 100%. I know that we've spoken before about so much that you give back to the communities above and beyond what you've just spoken, but charities, things like that. So would you mind talking about that for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So quite a few different organizations that I give back to, but one related to real estate, I created a hero program that actually gives back to quite a few different police organizations or organizations related to police, but also personally with my business. I have a rebate that I do for heroes, and heroes are first responders, teachers, nurses, medical professionals in general, and then military, obviously, whether they're active, retired, or they serve. And then also we just recently added coaches to that also. And it's a rebate of my commission. So last year we did just over $25,000 of my commission that I was able to give back. And what I'm excited about is we've already done over $20,000 this year.
Huge.
Yeah. So it's great. I mean, we'll easily do $50,000 in the last 2 years that we've been able to give back to heroes. So it's a great feeling. And then also working with heroes. One of my close friends has an organization that helps officers that are injured in the line of duty. When we hear about officers killed in the line of duty, quite often their families, in many instances, because there's so many organizations out there, their families are taken care of.
Sure.
But it's those officers that are injured in the line of duty that, in many cases, whether it's psychological matters, whether it's medical or physical issues or financial, they tend to struggle. So,
wow.
We're trying to bring more attention to that and also give that support in those areas.
Okay. Yeah, and that's obviously speaks volumes about you and your integrity and truly living by that why, or that word is giving back. Yeah. So this man is a titan, everybody. I can't stress this enough. This is a beautiful example. So I do want to shift gears and go into the next question, and this one is extremely important to a lot of the viewers of this particular series because they want to know how the Titans are growing and scaling their business. So if you could look back, Barry, at your business thus far, pick or choose one or two things that you added to your business that took it from one level to the next. What's that look like for you?
As I mentioned, so I retired from the police department in 2013. and really started focusing on my real estate business in 2017. I had another business that I was doing prior to really focusing on business in 17. But in 2017, I realized my sphere was police officers. That's I spent all my life in law enforcement. Those were my friends. Those were my peers. And I realized that there was a whole nother world out there of prospects and clients and things of that nature. So I had to do more networking. I had to get out of my circle, and it, that circle is comfort. Outside of it, it gets a little uncomfortable. But they always say that your growth is when you're outside of the comfort zone.
Well said.
And that's exactly what I experienced. Once I faced the fear of getting outside of that comfort zone, it's going in networking events and becoming a part of leads groups and chambers, chamber of commerce, doing those events, things of that nature. And it was very uncomfortable in the beginning,
Sure.
but eventually it led me into actually doing my own networking event.
I love that.
Yeah, and I don't focus my network event on getting more clients. It's literally the one thing that I did learn by networking is I love to be able to take this person that has this business and connect him with this person over here that has a business that may create a power partnership there. And it's great, and it doesn't necessarily monetarily benefit me in any way,
Right.
but once again, it's a service and it's fulfillment of being able to help two other people connect. And so my networking event is solely, just bringing business-minded people together and letting me introduce this person to other people that they may be able to build relationships with. And the greatest feeling in the world is when I go on Facebook and I see two people that met at my event, and they're having lunch or hanging out outside of work or business.
Sure.
But the relationship started, at my event. So that's a pretty cool feeling.
That's I love the fact that you took it from the very beginning, out of the comfort zone, right? Doing things that most people would run away from, and you're learning and you're growing and you're getting better and more comfortable. And then you took it another step to create your own. So is there a shout out to your group? How can people get involved with you that way? How would I find this group if I was out there watching or listening to this? I wanted to hang out with Barry.
Yeah, I would definitely say just friend me on Facebook. So it's a Ignite Business Networking. We're actually in the process of revamping it for 2017. So I'm really excited. We've got some we're getting outside the box of networking. So we're doing some different things coming in 2020.
2020, from 17 to 2020.
Yeah. So we're looking to really take networking to another level in regards to just bringing more people together.
Cool, love it.
I did want to share one other thing, and this is
absolutely.
It's funny. It just happened over the weekend. So the previous business I was in the network marketing realm, and so I do tend to get people that reach out to me, quite a bit about new opportunities that come up. And I had a friend of mine that reached out and said, "Hey, I got a new opportunity that's coming up. I know you're really busy with real estate right now, but when your business slows down in the winter, this may be something you want to add to your business." And my response to him was, "I don't allow my business to slow down."
I love that.
And it was really the first time I've ever said that, but I think it all the time. And so when I said the words, it really made me think, wait a minute, I don't allow my business to slow down. And I thought to myself, well, what is it that I'm doing? And so literally right now, I am marketing for December, January, which are typically the slower months in real estate. But I've already started putting the marketing together for that. And the one thing that I've always done during that time of the year is I tend to market to buyers. Even in the seller's market, I will market to buyers because that's their window of opportunity to get the best deals. And when the fact that we've had interest rate, drops in the last, just in the last week,
Sure.
We're seeing a little bit of a turn in the market as well. It's a prime opportunity to, once again, promote for buyers. So that's really kind of been the key to always having my business where it never slows down. Is I'm always promoting ahead. I'm always preparing the marketing ahead. And that was something that I did have to learn for myself. When I was a police officer, I would get clients and I wouldn't necessarily market, but it was great to have clients. When I retired and I did start promoting, I would promote, get business, and stop promoting the business. And so it created this roller coaster. So I learned along the way, okay, the promoting has to always continue.
Did you hear that, everybody? Hopefully you heard that, saw that, pause it, rewind it. That's huge.
Yeah, and and there's no more roller coaster. It just keeps going up. So it's been great, and it's all been a learning process for me. And I'm fortunate that I work with the company at York Castle Real Estate and the New Era Group. We have, we got titans there, juggernauts, whatever you want to call them.
Love it.
But some great people to learn from there.
And I think that you summed up so much, beautiful advice into there. Obviously talking about networking right off the bat. We work with who we know, like, and trust. That takes time getting out involved. As much digital age as we're in with marketing and advertisement, nothing beats a handshake. Face-to-face meeting, a cup of coffee with a potential friend, family member, client, however you want to break it down. So I think that's great. You base it also off of really looking at how do you constantly promote? How are you constantly treating this like a business and not just riding the waves of a market? I think that's huge advice. Figuring that out is a lot trickier than it's said, but I think that that's something that every fundamental business owner really needs to look at. Doesn't matter what business you're at. And then, lastly, that mentorship and or camaraderie, the culture that you're a part of as a team in an office, you are guilty by association, positive or negative, the people you surround yourself with. And obviously you're with some great people, Barry. I gotta say, this guy's awesome. So I mean, that's huge advice for everybody to take away. Hopefully you took good notes, pause it, rewind it, do whatever you guys need to do. This is great. So I do want to shift gears a little bit into this, and this is the tricky part of this particular series and interview. It's the challenge question. So Barry, I always lead into it with, we all deal with challenges. No one's exempt, right? Whether it's in the past, now, or into the future, we all have hard times, things to think about and process. It's not so much what happens, but how we overcome that I really feel makes the difference. Not to downplay what we deal with in pain and suffering, but if you're comfortable sharing a challenge that you dealt with, Barry, with everybody out there, what's that look like for you?
All right. Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually kind of the first time that I've really shared this.
Okay.
The people close to me are aware of it, but most people, even while it was going on, had no idea of this particular challenge. But as I mentioned, I retired from the police department in 2013, retired from a six-figure income, doing very well there. Was in a business that allowed me to put me in a position to be able to retire, and it was going great, for the first couple of years. And then we had some changes in the company and changes within my business, and it started to go, the business and my income started to go down to a point where, it was, I was in a situation where I didn't know if I was going to be able to keep my home, if I was going to be able to just maintain. And I can tell you, through the challenge, I can tell you I wouldn't take, if I had, I would do some things differently, but I don't regret going through that issue because I grew from it. And I can tell you, I never thought I could, overcome being in a position like that, of feeling like I'm almost destitute. I never thought I would be in that position, and just never imagined how I would even face it. But the fact that I did face the adversity and one thing that a lot of people told me, hey, you can go back to the police department, you can get your job back, and that was never a thought.
Wow.
Because one thing about when I left is a part of my purpose, and not really knowing that at the time, but it was about being an entrepreneur and working for myself, and that was something that was really important to me. So going back to law enforcement would have literally been taking steps back.
Sure.
And it was still about, even though I have this challenge in front of me, pushing through the challenge and continuing to move forward. And part of that moving forward was in 2017, making the decision to go all in on real estate, because I can tell you from 2001 up to that point of 2017, there was never a year that I didn't make money, even when I was very part-time with it.
Right.
So I finally said, okay, what will happen if I actually go full-time with this? And so 2017 was my best year ever in real estate. I've been in it 16 years at that point. In 2017, when I made the decision and enacted on it, it was my best year. 2018 outdid 17 by October of 18. 2019 is on track to outdo 18 by next month. So it's been just great. And that's again, that piece for me, that if I hadn't gone through the struggle, I don't know that I would have ever put myself in a position where I'm all in on real estate to realize, number one, our minds are very powerful, and when we say and believe that we have the ability to do something, and then we actually take the action to do it, what can happen? So now I really just live a life of believing whatever I set my mind to, I can do it. Maybe I don't hit it in the time frame that I want,
sure,
but I can see the progress, of going, continue to go up.
I mean, to me, Barry, that's huge for you to be able to share that with everybody, and myself included. It's not easy to air your stuff out in front, but I think that it shows a huge character positivity to you to deal with something so difficult, going from security and then seeing a lot of that dissipate during the downturn, which a lot of professionals, not even inside real estate, felt that pain, but you didn't let it stop you.
Yeah.
You didn't let it waver. You just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And look where you are now. Look what you've accomplished, and look at how much good you're able to do with your clients and the communities and the charities you're a part of. If you would have given up, who knows what would have happened that way. Yeah. So I think to anybody out there, we all deal with adversity, and just have that positive mindset, as you spoke about. It's not easy to do, but surround yourself with great people. Keep pushing forward, and if you know in your hearts of hearts you're doing the right thing, you can see success like this man here, which is great in any field, not just real estate. So, but Barry, thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely.
That's really meaningful, and I appreciate it for sure. We got through the tough stuff, so I want to go through a slightly softer question, if that's all right. This is actually one of my favorites. This is the travel back in time question. So, if you could travel back in time and give young Barry a piece of advice or two, any age range, any time frame, not necessarily saying I would redo this, but what would you say to your younger self?
Man, I would first say buy Amazon stock.
There you go.
1990s, buy Amazon
You
stock.
and me too, Barry, and probably everybody else there. Apple, I think you could put it at the very beginning.
Absolutely.
Macintosh, Apple, everyone. Okay, that's awesome.
But on a serious note, I think I would definitely say, number one, pursue your dreams. Never stop dreaming. And I think the most important things that keep people from dreaming are two words: fear and doubt. And facing the fears and overcoming the doubt. I would definitely say at a younger age, because the reason I retired in 2013 versus say 2008 really was because of fear and doubt. Because I had my license in 2008. I had actually considered probably 2006, 2007, making 2008 my retirement year. But we went through a little thing called a recession, and the market crashed. And honestly, I was at a place where I said, man, I'm glad I do have a job. And then it took me through a phase of maybe I should never leave here. Maybe I should just retire. But there was still this burning desire inside that said, no, there's more for you to do. And I did at least keep listening to it instead of suppressing it and saying, no, I'm going to just stay safe and stay what's comfortable and not pursue my dreams. And I can tell you, when I finally did talk to myself and say, you know what, this burning desire was bigger than the fear, and it was bigger than the doubt at that point. And once again, it was a lesson learned that when you face your fears and break through it, there's something beautiful on the other side waiting for you. And when you understand where doubt comes from and fear comes from, and I'll talk about that here with the books that I've read in a little bit, but when I understood that, it made it so much easier to overcome those two things.
Wow. I think that, giving that piece of advice to your younger self, get the fear out, get the doubt out. I think that's huge advice for everybody who's watching or listening to this, myself included. That's really, really pertinent information. And I think that, when you look at it from the standpoint, and I saw this the other day, and no offense to anybody who has a salary or works a 9-to-5, that typical job, but I think the quote was something along the lines of, salaries are the #1 dream killer in the United States.
Yeah.
We get comfortable, we get complacent, we have that security of a salary and what's coming in, but your dreams can start to fade and fade and fade. So go after that, be logical, make the jumps when you need to, and support your life and your family, but no risk, no reward. And I think the bigger risk, a lot of times the bigger reward. Entrepreneurs get that, business professionals, but it's very difficult for everybody. And the audience who's watching or listening to this understands that, I know 100%. So that's a really, really great share, Barry, all the way through, for sure. So now when it comes down to the portion when we're talking about going into the books and podcasts and influencers, that's a huge crowd pleaser when it comes out there is the viewers and the subscribers of the series. They want to know what the Titans are feeding their minds.
Yeah.
So what are you feeding your mind, Barry? What can you share with the audience today?
A couple of my favorites. I have to definitely say The Go-Giver. It's one that I've read a few times. I love the fact that it's a fiction book, but it has all these amazing lessons along the way. And again, because we all think the go-getter mentality,
right?
But giving you kind of a whole different perception of it from the Go-Giver is an amazing book. And the fact that Bob Berg, the author of it, wants you to give the book away to others as well. And I had someone that did exactly that. And of course, I passed it along. Then I had to buy one, so I had it for myself.
Well, that's only the right thing to do.
Yeah. But I think that's a great book. Honestly, the first book that I read in regards to personal development was Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and between audio and reading it, I think I'm at 6 times.
Okay.
And I can tell you, I swear they must stick some new pages in every time I read it because I get new information. But I realize it's just me growing, and I'm growing into the information every time. So Napoleon Hill, amazing author, and for those that haven't read it, he wrote that book in 1937. Most people are not aware of Outwitting the Devil that he wrote in 1938.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually it wasn't released until I think in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken. It was only because the information in the book was so powerful, and his wife was concerned that he may be ostracized because of the information. But basically, the gist of the book is Napoleon Hill was interviewing the devil and seeing how he works in this world to crush dreams and stop people from dreaming. And there was one segment in the book, and this was really kind of a life-changing piece that I read for me, where the devil asked Napoleon Hill to address it. I'll answer any question you ask me, but you have to address me as your majesty.
wow.
And Napoleon asked him, well, why is that? And he says, because I'm the ruler of this world. And I rule this world through two things. And Napoleon asked, well, what are those things? And he said, fear and doubt.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And when he said that, it's explained further in the book. And I started thinking to myself again about all the dreams that I had that I didn't accomplish. What was it that stopped me? And I could put one of those two things or both in every situation.
Wow.
Fear or doubt. So it now has become, anytime there's something that I want to do, there's something that I want to achieve, if I find myself slowing down, I'm asking myself, what's slowing me down? Is it fear or is it doubt? And no matter which one it is, I have to overcome it. I have to get through it. So that book itself, has really just kind of put me in a mindset of, I can't let the devil win. And then speaking of which, I think, the biggest book for me is the Holy Bible. I literally call it the ultimate personal development book, because whether it's business, whether it's relationships, marriage, raising your children, there's scripture in there for every aspect.
Wow. I think that's an amazing list, and I definitely need to add that book from Napoleon Hill onto mine for sure, because it's always growing that way. And I love the fact that when you were talking about Think and Grow Rich, that 6 times listening and or reading it, in simultaneous nature, that you're always learning something different. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of professionals don't quite understand that if you listen to it once or just read it, you think you got it. And you read it or listen to it again, as you age, as you evolve, as you alluded to, you're going to pick up different pieces that are going to stick to you at that time in your life, with your thought process of that time in your life. And I think that's huge advice. Yeah. Obviously from so many different diverse portions of it, but then rereading, re-listening. I think that's great. I love that. Now, before we go into anything with podcast influencers, I know you're super inspirational, motivational, and your thought process is deep. You're in the process, if I'm not correct, about coming out with your own book, and so if you wouldn't mind sharing that with everybody, just a little teaser, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely, it's definitely a book that is inspired through the personal development that I've been able to tap into over the last 10 years or so. And a part of it, we always hear that there's greatness within you. And I really started researching that and wanting to understand, what does that mean? And is there truly greatness in all of us? Because we see the Michael Jordans of the world, or Prince, and all these people that have these amazing talents. And we can say, man, that person is great. Muhammad Ali is coined as the greatest of all time.
Right.
But when I really started looking into it, I understood that each and every one of us has greatness within us. So I've actually, Ralph Waldo Emerson did a thesis on greatness and how it lives inside of us. And I've actually taken it to another level from where he's at with it. Yeah, so it's pretty exciting. I give you the odds of just being born. You have the chance of being struck by lightning, winning the lottery, and being bit by a shark. All 3 of those, you have more of a chance of all 3 of those happening than just being conceived.
Think about that.
Yeah, but yet and still we're all here. So we're already beating the odds.
Right.
So it's I go through the odds. I go through where greatness lies within the body. I'm actually in the process of now reaching out to some people that well-known people, and then some that are not so well-known, but that are all living within their greatness, to show the proof is right in front of us. So pretty exciting. We're looking for a December launch of the book.
Here we go. And please keep all of us informed. Let me know. I'll let the other Titan followers know, and I want to be the first in line. Hopefully getting a signed copy of that when it comes out. So that's exciting, Barry. That's super great. So podcasts, influencers, anything along those lines?
Yeah, one of the biggest podcasts that I listen to is Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
Always, some on the business side of things, has some great information. to be able to listen to, and he gives it to you raw and uncut. So,
Very.
yeah.
That's a true statement right there.
Yeah, and then the Side Hustle School is another podcast that I've been listening to. I love just entrepreneurship, and I love hearing about people's new ideas. And I share with people all the time how we in the 1800s we had the gold rush on the West, and in the early 1900s we had the oil boom, and how so many millionaires were created during those time frames in the steel industry of the U.S. and just how many millionaires we've created in this country alone. But we are in this digital age where you could probably put all three of those eras together, and the number of millionaires and billionaires that are going to be created just through technology over the next 10, 20, 30 years is just insurmountable. So it's pretty exciting to see side hustle, and you think of different ideas or see different ideas that people come up with, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. And actually become a customer of some of these folks as well.
I think that's huge, insight and foresight to look at it from that standpoint of the technology that we have at our fingertips. And obviously, we're utilizing it right now. This is, there's word of mouth. Now this is world of mouth, right? Because of what technology has brought partnerships, relationships, business opportunities, ideas together in such a global platform. That statement is, it's such a big, small world. It's there with technology, but how are you leveraging that? How are you gravitating that attention? And then what are you doing with it afterwards? I think is, that whole portion. So everybody's tuning in some form or fashion, whether you're listening or watching this. So this is proof of that particular concept that you state right there. I think it's beautiful. So as always, I'm going to have links in the comments down below so you can feed your mind and follow and read and really educate yourself the same way that this man is doing, at least in some form or fashion for sure. And then again, once we get that book released out, which I'm super excited about, then we'll let everybody know there as well. Barry, this has been chock full of amazing information, applicable data for any entrepreneur, any business professional, and real estate professional out there. So this has really been amazing. I want to thank you so much. I want to wrap everything up with a final question. And this ends up being the quote or the mantra that you live by that sums up you as a man, as a professional. What's that look like for Barry Overton?
There's so many great quotes that are out there, but going back, like I mentioned, the Bible, I think the biggest quote for me is actually a scripture, and it's Jeremiah 29:11, and it's, I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And during that struggle, that time, the challenge that I had in life, I held on to that, and I have to remind myself that, okay, my plan is not coming together, but I also had to remind myself that God's plan is bigger than my plan. So I had to submit to God and really believe and give faith that He is going to get me through this. And when I understood that His plan was much bigger for me, and I could see the doors and the opportunities continuing to open, I just stuck with that scripture, and to this day, when I have an idea and I'm doing something and maybe it goes awry, it doesn't go the way that it should, I have to remind myself, okay, this is part of God's plan. So that particular scripture is something that has always, over the last few years, that has been close to me. And another one that really got me on the direction or looking for my purpose was a Mark Twain quote. And he said that the two most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day that you find out why. And I think many of us are seeking that why. And, it took me, I think I was about 46, 47 years old before I found the why. So, and I think I thought I was in the why, but when it opened itself up to me, I could really feel it because of the passion now that lies there with it. And now I kind of work from a sense of urgency because I was 47 years old And so I got some catching up to do.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But that's so much beauty and honesty and integrity and character coming out of those quotes, and to me sums you up beautifully, Barry. I mean, this is amazing. I'm absolutely, as always, honored to have you here on the show. And you are an official real estate titan, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
I want to thank you so much. And everybody, thanks so much for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like what we're doing here at Titans, don't forget to like the Facebook page. Subscribe to YouTube, and take a listen on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody on the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Take care.
Bye.